into the main review of the show, and I'm talking about Love Lies Bleeding, the latest A24 flick directed by a young lady named Rose Glass, who did have a previous film called Saint Maud that came out on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. And this is one of those, revenge type thrillers. No John Wick energy in this, though. This film definitely feels like a love child between, I would say, Fargo, Thelma and Louise, and a little bit of that classic A24 weirdness. You know what I mean? Starring the great Katie O'Brien, and starring the great Kristen Stewart as well. And I know a lot of y'all got hate for her back in the day from Twilight, but she has definitely proven herself to be a really kick-ass actress and has completely grown out of that, and I think is completely irrelevant to what's going on now. You know what I mean? But this is one of those movies that kind of went a little bit more under the radar, so y'all might not be as privy to it. So I'll give you a little bit of a plot synopsis before I get into my overall thoughts on this thing. But essentially, it's a revenge thriller that takes place in, like, I think New Mexico or something like that. And Katie O'Brien plays the buff lady you seen, the bodybuilder character of Jackie, who's kind of like reminds me a little bit of Roddy Piper's character in They Live, where she's just kind of a hitchhiker and just kind of goes from place to place and is kind of making her way over to Vegas to try to train and participate in this bodybuilding competition going down in Vegas and all that stuff. And she ends up running into Kristen Stewart's character of Lulu, and who's managing the gym that she ends up, Katie O'Brien's character of Jackie, ends up going to train. And she ends up getting looped into this whole crazy fiasco with Kristen Stewart's character of character's dad, played by the great Ed Harris. And I'm forgetting the dad's name right now. But yeah, that's pretty much the setup for the film. Shit hits the fan and gets even crazier as it goes along. And I must say, the one thing I definitely want to highlight about this movie, first and foremost, is how Rose Glass, and I'm not sure if she wrote and directed the film, but her, whoever wrote it, whatever, they did such a great job at keeping you on your toes and subverting your expectations, and with characters making these decisions and doing certain things that you won't see coming. And once you think about it afterwards, you can kind of see how things got to that point, and it always serves the story. I think Rose Glass did such a phenomenal job at directing and writing this thing or whatever, and crafting and putting this film together. It does have its own unique feel, and it does play on, like I said, like Fargo and Thelma and Louise and these other like thrillers that you've seen, before in the past. Has a very has a very quirky energy in that way, and a very like true authentic 80s vibe, because it does take place in 1985, I think. And they really do a great job at capturing the 80s and really giving it that atmosphere and that vibe. And I just really love the unpredictability of the characters and the story and where things were going and the twists and turns that happened. I was never able to necessarily predict every single thing that was going to go down. And that, to me, is very refreshing these days, when we've all seen a bunch of movies and we analyze movies and look at them and all this stuff. And, everything's been done under the sun. Nothing's original anymore. But it's really cool to see the way that they were able to kind of do things in a way that you kind of expected, but also was able to subvert your expectations and go in a different direction, but also really give you a payoff that feels satisfying or makes sense with the story that they're telling. And that, to me, is also another big plus and very refreshing, and which is so well done, man. And I love the acting across the board, but I got to give a lot of love to Katie O'Brien for sure. I think she did such a great job at really showing the range that she has as an actress, and showing the talent that she really has, and being able to play a more complicated, more complex, darker, more fucked up character that isn't necessarily the hero in this story, isn't necessarily a protagonist in the story, as you might think from the marketing or some of the promotion. Definitely not. I would almost call Jackie the villain of the film, or the antagonist of the film, if you really look at it in a certain aspect of the way that they do this thing and the way that they put this together. And I think Katie O'Brien did such a great job at bringing this character to life, between her addiction with the whole steroid angle and the whole thing with her dark past never really fully coming to light, was another great aspect of the film, where they left things up in the air a little bit, in the sense of, you don't know every single aspect of these characters' past. They don't tell you every single thing, and it gives them a bit of more mystique, and giving it an air of mystery is something that they don't do a lot these days. They don't trust their audience, and just let us be able to kind of draw our own conclusions and fill in the gaps where we may, in simple little lines of dialogue, like I kill people, you know what I mean? And just those little hints to things that may have gone down in the past, to where brought those characters like Jackie and Lulu to where they are today. And they've both done dirt. They've both killed people. They've both done fucked up things. And that was the interesting thing with their characters and the way that they come together and form this relationship and this love they have for each other. And the fact that they've both done fucked up things and both have great qualities about themselves and both have a genuine love for each other and have that connection and are willing to kill and do whatever they need to in order to be with each other and get out of this situation. And to me, that all sold, and I bought it all, and the love story angle and everything that really happened there. I really bought it, and I really dug that aspect to it. And I love how this movie does play with some gore and some horror vibes at times as well, and the way that they're able to seamlessly wrap that into the mix with the sound design and even just some of the production choices and some of the editing style and things like that. And the sound design of like her muscles growing with the steroids and all this different stuff going on. I just loved the unique energy and the visceral sound design and the visceral parts to the action and the suspense that was going on. And it was just really good, man. Like, it wasn't necessarily like this like Dune Part 2 type thing where it just blew me away and I was on the edge of my seat and couldn't believe it or whatever. It's not this masterpiece of a film or anything of that nature, but it's just so well done and so well executed for what they were trying to go for. And I think just really oozed a sense of style and a sense of creativity that you don't see in a lot of movies. And really, I think this is more where A24 shines, where they don't get too artsy and too weird, where they let the audience draw their own conclusions for things. It is a nuanced and well-made movie that is a new story, that is something original, but at the same time can give you something unique and fresh and a weird movie and give you those weird vibes at the same time without forgetting about the entertainment value and wanting to make sure that you as an audience member are satisfied and actually excited and interested in what's going on. So I really, really dug that aspect to it. And one thing I also wanted to mention was the score. I love how it captures that 80s vibe, but really feels like one of those like early like 80s like Terminator, The Hitcher. Like, it really has that gritty vibe to it for being a newer movie and doesn't necessarily feel like it's an 80s movie the way they film it all the time, but in moments it does. And in a certain way with the film, I like the gritty vibe that they bring to it and really bring to it and this nastiness, not like a Rob Zombie, like hillbilly nasty, but just that, I don't know, that edge that really gives it something special and how like you can't really necessarily tell what state they're in, but you can kind of guess it might be New Mexico or something like that. But I don't remember them explicitly saying, so maybe I missed that detail. But just the way they're able to bring this all to life, I thought was so cool. And it's just a really cool and unique film. I thought it was just very well executed for what they were going for. So for me personally, I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. I thought Love Lies Bleeding was a really, really well done film. And if you get a chance to check this out in theaters and you have it at a theater near you, because it is starting to get into more of a limited run later this week and through the rest of it, it's probably going to phase out of theaters by the time we get to like some of these other films down the line, like Civil War and other things like that. I think we're going to be kind of transitioning out of this film being available in theaters. But if you can make it out to somewhere and check this out, I highly recommend it. It's really well done. The acting's good. The direction is really strong. It's a really cool movie. It flies right by at like an even 145, maybe hour and 50 minutes. So around 100 minutes or so. It really flies by. It's really, really well done. Bravo to freaking Katie O'Brien for really showing what she's got as an actress and really stepping out and showing that great performance. It's a really kick-ass movie, man. Love Lies Bleeding. Go check it out. If you don't mind spoilers and want to go check it out and see it for yourself, definitely do that. And if you saw this film somehow this weekend or throughout the week or whatever, or whenever you see this, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments below. I would love to discuss this film with y'all. And I love getting into these indie movies and different things that aren't always the big blockbusters, but still appeal to my sensibilities. It fits into what we're doing here on the channel and all of that. So definitely check out Love Lies Bleeding. It's in theaters now. Go check it out where you can at your local cinema throughout the rest of this week, because after that, I think it's going to be exclusively in Santa Ana when it comes to Southern California. So if you're in a different state, you're going to have to do some different homework and digging around to figure out which theater is going to have it for you, which chain and all that stuff. I never get to travel anywhere out of state, so I don't know where anything is.